Good evening. Welcome to the Certified Personality Trainer Facebook page. Tonight we have a special training session for you featuring Anita Lawrence, who is live with us this evening from Malaysia. Now we are recording this session tonight on May 27th at 7 p.m. Central Time, which is where I am. And I mention that because sometimes on our past recordings, people watch this training session after the fact, which we encourage. That's great. We keep these trainings available online for you to read but to review and look at any time. But sometimes I've seen people asking questions after the live broadcast is already complete. And you maybe feel frustrated, like, why are they not getting to my questions? Because across the bottom of your screen there, it says, please type in your questions. And so we want you to ask questions. And if you ask questions after our live broadcast, we will do our best to still answer your questions. So that's kind of the plan for us for tonight. And we're going to introduce Anita for you. And as I mentioned, she's coming to us live from Malaysia, where it is morning there and evening in the U.S. And we're going to be talking about using the personalities in a corporate setting, which Anita has years and years of experience with. So let me give you her biography, her introduction. And of course, it's also on our Facebook page, on the Certified Personality Trainer Facebook page. So Anita Lawrence is a John Maxwell Certified Speaker. Now, let me just chime in here for a moment on the John Maxwell part, and that John Maxwell is a big fan of my mother, Florence Littauer, and of our material on the personalities. So, Anita, who's here on screen with me, is a John Maxwell Certified Speaker, trainer, and coach. She conducts workshops, seminars, keynote speaking, and coaching, aiding personal and professional growth through study and practical application of John's proven leadership methods. Building partnerships together, she moves leaders and their teams or organizations in the desired direction to reach their goals. She's also the founder of Exceed Excellence, a training and consultancy company. Her vision is to create a community of leaders in Malaysia across the world. Leaders that are constantly growing and being equipped and ready to transform their nation. That's a big goal, transform their nations. She has vast experience of 21 years in the people development and transformation arena. She's a pioneer and active practitioner of Personality Plus in Malaysia, having become a certified personality trainer in 2000 under my mother, Florence Littauer, and myself. She is passionate about people and focuses on helping them excel in their personal and professional lives. So, Anita, thank you so much for getting up early to join us here in the United States.
Thank you so much for having me here, Marita. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's just amazing. I wish your mom could have been with us, but it's okay, you know.
She's a little under the weather tonight, yes. So she couldn't be with us. And my little studio here is upstairs, and coming upstairs in my home is tough for her. So,
yeah.
So she's not with us, but she will watch this, believe me. When my sister was here visiting us in Lubbock for my mother's 92nd birthday, we spent a lot of time trying to get her television that's mounted on the wall so that she could see Facebook on the TV. And she, you know, at 92, she doesn't really understand all this technology. Yeah. But when she sees her pictures on the TV screen, she thinks she's on TV.
How cool is that?
They're so cute. She tells people, well, I was on TV last week, or I was on TV yesterday, and she thinks she was on TV. So, you know, at 92, she's doing really well, but her skills are not, her technology is not quite all there at the moment.
It's understandable.
So we've got a good group of people signing in here to join us from coast to coast and perhaps across the world, because I know, Anita, you have invited some of your friends or people from your world,
Yes.
literally, to join us as well. So we'll be posting some questions from them as we go along.
Yeah.
So as the crawler says across the bottom, for those of you who are joining us, type in your questions and comments too, and we'll try to answer them during the broadcast. So Anita, give me a little bit of background for you to start. This is using the personalities in a corporate setting. What is
Yeah.
your personal corporate background?
Well, actually, I got into training very early. I got into training in 1996. And that's where I learned about personal development. I learned about designing programs, about selling the programs to clients. And that's at that point is when in the year 2000 that I came over to US to be certified under you and your mom, Marita. And once I got certified and I came back, I realized that the tool, Personality Plus, the tool was so powerful that it really transformed me. My exposure to Personality Plus was when I was a teenager. I had read the book. So I had already known about Personality Plus way before I came to US to be certified. And so when I came back to Malaysia, I started designing programs for the corporate setting, for organizations. And that's when I found the power in the tool because everybody could understand it from top level management to middle management to even the juniors at work. And I said, wow, this tool will enable people to speak the different languages. And so I fell in love with using this tool way
Now, when
back
you say the
24
tool,
years.
when you say the tool, let me just clarify. You're referring to what we call the personality
Yes,
profile. Is that correct?
exactly.
Yes.
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 And
And
because,
just for our listeners, let me just chime in that we are going to have that personality profile available online, hopefully really close to June 1st. We're hoping for the middle of May. That didn't happen. I can't get too upset because when I remodel someone's house, I tell them it's going to take us 3 weeks to do your kitchen, and the last one we did took 6 weeks. So I can't fault anyone. It's a big project. It's a very big
yes,
undertaking, but it's going to be available very soon. And the price of the online profile is going to be the same as the price of the paper profile that Anita, you have me regularly ship 500 copies at a time to
yes,
Malaysia. So you have those personality profiles. So
yes.
I assume you're very happy to have the online version available.
Yes, exactly. Because now, with everything that's going on, the online version would be the best option for me as well. So,
Yes.
having used it for 20 years in organizations, I realized that it's the simplest tool ever. It's the simplest tool ever, and you can teach someone the personalities, which I call Personality Plus specifically here, because if I were to say the personalities, people may get it mixed up with other personality assessment tools. So I always use the term Personality Plus and link it back to Florence book, Marita. And I always will say, authored by this book. There's a book called Personality Plus, authored by Florence Littauer. And that's how I normally position this. And I'm really just so excited. It has changed my life personally, and that's why I brought it to the corporate setting. Because of my own personal transformation in knowing who I am naturally and how I upgraded myself, which is nurtured myself into being a better version of myself. I'm still
I love
myself.
that. I love that. Being a better version of yourself. I
Yes,
mean, that's really what this is about. And I
yes,
point that out because so often people will say things such as, well, I don't like this. You're putting everybody in a box. But
yeah.
really, a lot of people say, no, this is letting people out of the
Out,
box.
exactly, Marita.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's getting people out of their boxes to say that, hey, this may be the natural you, but there is a nurtured side that we can develop. We can choose that which is not natural to us for the purpose of a project, for the purpose of your career, if that's where your passion and your purpose lies. You can grow, but you need to know who you are. Baseline, you need to know what are your emotional needs, what makes you, what how are you wired, right, Marina? How are you
Right, right.
wired? So it's so powerful. And I've designed programs on leadership, coaching, emotional intelligence, sales, service excellence, team building
And
using
you
a
bring
model.
the personalities into all of those.
Yes, all of it.
But
All
you
of it.
also, I assume, have a module or a program that's uniquely the personalities.
I pair it with a module on mindset change and then personalities. Because
Okay.
I've come to realize that there are two aspects in everyone's, generally there are two aspects when somebody says, I can't get along with that person, he annoys me, I'm so upset. There are two things. One is it could be a personality clash or lack of understanding of the person's personality, or it could be that I don't have a good attitude, I don't have a positive attitude, I'm critical, and it's my attitude, not really my personality. So I pair both those modules so that people understand, hey, it's not just a personality clash, it's also my attitude is not in the right place. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm looking at it from the wrong lens. And then
Yeah.
you combine it with personalities, it gives clarity, Marita.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
so many success stories. Yeah.
Well, as you're talking about that, the personality clash, it reminds me of what we talk about in, grab my little book here, Wired That Way.
Yes. Yes.
We have a chapter in there on living in strengths. And I
Yes.
think that's one of the real key features of our program over some of the others is, and I've really been focusing on this as I've been working on the new website, the brand relaunch that I've been
Yeah.
working on, is that one of the real strengths of this program over the others, I believe, is that the idea of this is a tool for growth. We're not putting you in a box, but
Yes.
this is a tool for growth. And any of the four personality types or any combination thereof, if they are living in their weakness, is a person we don't want to hang out with, is a person
Exactly.
we don't want to work with, is a person
Yep.
we don't want to know. But any of the personalities, if they're living in their strengths, is the best, is a wonderful
Exactly.
person. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is what I constantly tell people. I said, we are all so different and yet we bring something so special to your work teams, because I run this in a non-corporate setting as well. But because today our topic is mainly on the corporate setting, so I'm going to focus on that. And I have seen people's eyes light up. And they have actually gone through many other profiling assessments, Marita, many
Yeah.
other good ones. Every personality assessment is good. But the special thing about the personalities or personality plus or why it that way,
Right.
right? The special thing is it is so simple and it doesn't come with a 20-page report or 30-page report where some people get tired after the second page and they don't want to read the rest, and it's like it's too difficult, it's too overwhelming. What if they're not the data driven person, right? They
Yes.
won't see it as value add, but it is good. The 30-page report, I've seen many, I've taken many, it's awesome. But how many people have that interest to read all 30 pages and work on everything? It just seems so overwhelming. And so some personalities rather not do that. They want something short, sweet, and simple and relevant, and I can apply it this afternoon for
Yeah.
lunch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
During lunch, I can apply it. That's how fast we want things.
You can learn it that quickly and make a difference. And let me mention for our viewers, whether you're watching live on Wednesday evening, May 27th, or whether you're watching at a later date, I'd encourage you to go back, if you haven't already done so, go back to the video section on the Certified Personality Trainer page and watch the session we did a couple weeks ago with Georgia Schaefer on the different the major different personality systems and kind of how they compare with ours, and what are the strengths of ours over some of the others. So for those of you who are watching, if you haven't viewed that one, I encourage you to do so. So Anita, I think we've covered how you've used Personality Plus in organizations in Malaysia and in your training courses, or do you want to add a little bit more to that?
I just find it that each time I pair it with all the areas like leadership, team building, people get it. They get it. And they can apply it specifically. And that's the special part about it. Very specifically, they can apply this tool and see changes within a week, within 3 days, within a month. Their eyes light up, and that gives them the confidence to continuously apply it in their teams.
Good. Now, I find I have not done a lot in corporate America speaking, but I spoke back in January at a conference for orthodontics, and I
Uh-huh.
spoke to the people who are actually doing the work. My group was the staff. I was
Okay.
speaking with staff, and I found that they were not at all as receptive or enthusiastic as those that I'm used to speaking to in a church setting.
Right.
Have you found that you have a little trouble with acceptance from these groups in the beginning, or have you had a really good acceptance, and how do you do that?
Amazingly, when I do a session, the challenge is when I'm talking to the person in charge of training, the human resource director, the training director, the talent manager. When I'm talking to them, that's where the challenge is, not when I'm with the participants. The challenge with the initial appointment, when I meet with the corporate people, their struggle is, you see, Personality Plus is not popular like the other personality assessment tools because it's not online, it's not blasted out, it's not sold in that way, it's very differently marketed. So people are not aware of what is Personality Plus. Many of them don't know about it over in Malaysia until I tell them there's a book called Personality Plus, have you heard of this? And they're like, no, not really. And then I begin to connect it. It's something like DISE but not really like DISE, so I have to give them examples. So they tell me, we've done this, we've done that in our organization. And so the question I ask, when they tell me they have done other personality assessment tools in their organization, the first thing I would ask them is, what are the successes? How has it been? And then they can't tell me any stories. They can't give me specific stories of how this tool was used and how it changed a team. I haven't, and I'm still looking for those examples. I can't. So, but when I did it for corporate setting, a group of leaders in an MNC, a group of leaders during their graduation, because it was a 6-month leader development experience, 6-month program with 20 of them. Yeah. And the amazing thing, that company, they had done many profiling tools over the years. They have been exposed to so many, even recently. But when they were graduating, many of them said, this tool helped me really understand my team members. And they taught it to their team members. And now they're speaking the same language. They delegate differently. They coach differently. And I was on cloud 9. I was super
excited. Imagine. I love that you said they're now speaking the same language.
Yes. And this has been happening with corporate setting. And they go back and they start talking about it even during lunch break, tea break, and say, yeah, our boss is this personality. No wonder I can't understand him. So it creates it increases the level of acceptance and empathy. I always say this in my training. I'll say people are not out there to get you. Don't think that they're out there to make your life miserable.
Most of them are not. Most of them are not.
Yeah, most of them are not. Most of them, yeah. Most of them are struggling within their own weaknesses. And so are we. So always draw them together. And so that's why people's eyes light up. And even in a corporate setting, one special thing that I always leave with the participants, no matter what level they are at, I include stories from our personal lives. So what has happened? People who are married, those with children, they have come back to me and said, Anita, my marriage was on the rocks when I attended your training. And this is a corporate setting training. They said, my marriage was on the rocks. And when you taught me Personality Plus, and when I went home, I saw my husband through a different lens. And she teared when she told me that. And I almost teared. And I was in her office at that time when she told me. So after hearing all this over the years, why would I not use the personalities, right? Personality Plus.
Right.
Because it has transformed. And it has transformed so many people in my own circle, corporate and my own family and friends. So I love what it can do and how it can save people's relationships. And I'm very passionate about it, in case you guys can't see.
We can see that. I love your passion for it. Totally. I totally love your passion. I appreciate that. So when you go into a company to sell your product, I mean, I assume you have to do that, right? You have to make an appointment with someone, and you've got to go in and sell the program to them. What is the approach you use? I mean, we talked about some of these success stories, and I love that you ask people, well, you've done this, and you've done this, and you've done this. What success stories do you have? I love that. So, how do you pitch it to people? And let me mention that we've got people online with us right now from Seattle, from Texas, from other places in the country. I'm just trying to skim through those real quickly so I can get Arkansas, 2 from Arkansas, actually, different parts of Arkansas, different areas of Texas. So we've got people joining us from all over. And in just a few moments, I want to encourage you to y'all to ask questions, but let's go ahead and get a little more of the background from Anita on how you kind of pitch this in a corporate setting.
All right. So when I meet all the people that are in that meeting, it could be 3 people, 2 people, or 1 person. The first question I always ask is, what's going on? What's going on with? I never pitch a program unless they specifically ask for something. Even then, my question would be getting to know where they are currently at. What are their current struggles? What are their current struggles they are facing? Why did they even want to see me? Some of them are referrals. Someone else told them about me, so they call me, which is most of the time they call me. And what happens is when I ask them what's been happening, what are your struggles, they will give me a list. This not working right. The people are like this. I'm struggling with performance. They don't speak up. They are very shy. So a lot of these things come up. And when I see their issues, their challenges, their current situations, then I will suggest the best tools that I have in my toolbox. I will suggest it and have a conversation with them. I don't force them into anything. I would ask them questions like, do you feel when you said that they don't work together well as a team, do you feel that they know each other well as a team? They say, no, we're very busy, and people come to me and complain. They come to me for counseling. So when I see all these people issues popping up, that's when I would ask them, have you done any, getting to know you sessions in terms of their personality and how they are wired? If that person says, no, we haven't, I would tell them some success stories and ask them, would you be interested to give this a shot? But it will be paired together with your other areas that you're looking at, whether it's team building or whether you're looking at a leadership development. So personality is important, because without personality, I don't see how a leader can lead effectively. Because a leader who sees everybody looking the same is going to lead everybody the same, but that's not really a leader. It looks like a boss just giving one instruction.
I love that. Say that again. Say that again for us, because I think that's really, that a leader who sees everybody the same is not a leader, that's a boss.
Yeah, right? I learned this from Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan said this in Live to Lead, our recent Live to Lead, which is one of the programs that we run in US and also back in Malaysia. He says a boss leads people all the same way, like how you play checkers, how you play checkers. But a leader leads people differently. So you play chess because each piece has its own unique movements. So I love that. So I tend to use that now. Yeah, so I believe leaders need to lead people differently. How would they do that unless they know what's different about their people? And personality plus is the simplest and is the quickest.
I love your enthusiasm. So let me just clarify for you. For you teaching this in a corporate setting, you come from the outside as a trainer. You're not using this as an employee of the company yourself. You come from the outside as a trainer. Yep. And you're generally not doing exclusively personalities. You're generally pairing personalities with some other modules that you already have ready.
Yes.
So have you ever had any of them come back and say, could you do, like, let's just say you do all the department heads in a special training. Have they ever had you come back then and do just like a half day, a morning session on personalities for all of the people on that team?
Yeah, well, actually what I do with organizations, I do a long project. So most of my big clients, I have worked with them for 7 years, 8 years, 10 years. So I do it from the top level right to the bottom level. I run batches and batches and batches and batches of training. So I have very few big clients. So I work with them. And from there, if they need a deeper understanding of it, they would. But I already go quite deep in my trainings with them. In the module, I do case studies to ensure that they understand the personalities and they can, quote unquote, diagnose. I use the word diagnose, yeah. They can diagnose the personality of their bosses, their team member, their colleague, their husband, wife, children, to that level, to that competence. That's how I run my trainings. If they can't diagnose themselves, their personalities, and someone else's, then I have not done a proper training. So that's my level of when I say I train people in personalities, they must be able to know their personality. And sometimes I do
Their
it even with,
personality first. You do their
yeah,
personality first. Okay,
yes,
that's good to know.
yes. And sometimes I don't even use the tool first, the assessment, Marina. I keep it for later. I tell them
Yes,
on day one, you take it back home, fill it up, give it back to me morning of day two, and I take it away. I don't let them look at it and wonder, why is my score like this? I tell them, don't worry about the score, leave the score to me. And I teach them based on
that's
just my
good.
stories, my examples, my illustrations, and then their eyes light up and they catch the
Yes, yes,
understanding.
I'll get
I
that.
don't want them
Yeah,
to
we
get
find that.
messed up with the numbers and why is my score like this. So I tell them, don't let a paper determine who you are. Don't let a piece of paper determine who you are, because if you had ticked the characteristics based on how you felt or how you thought your mother would approve of you, your scoring would have been messed up.
Exactly.
And some of them
So
tick, oh, this
clarify that a little bit for me, Anita. How do you help them? You just said about how your mother would see you or wanted you to be or whatever. How do you help them make the right choices on the personality profile when they're actually taking it? That's my first question. And my
okay.
next one that's parallel to that is, you said you take away the personality profile from them on the morning of day two. So do they have
Yes,
their name on it? And you
yes,
give it back to them later, and do you
yes.
score it? Do you score it while something else is going on, or have they already scored it?
Okay, so the first question, when I give it out on the end of day one, I tell them the instructions. Do it quick, don't spend too much of time on it, don't overthink it. But there's one part I tell them to remember: tick your natural self. So I'll explain it to them. I'll say, if as a child you were adventurous, you used to climb trees, jump off your tall tables, your high tables, you used to do all the crazy and dangerous things, and your parents said, stop it, you didn't listen, and one day, in Malaysia, you can cane your children. Yeah. So let's say one day your mom pulls you down or your dad pulls you down from a high level table and canes you very badly, and you cry for like few hours because you're in pain. You are originally an adventurous child at the age of 3, 4, 5, 6. But after that caning session, you are so terrified that each time you look at a tree or you look at a place where you would love to climb, behaviorally, you do not climb, but naturally you would love to climb. So I'll give them that example and I'll tell them, when you're ticking your answers on the profile, you still need to tick adventurous. Although your behavior has been modified, what we want on this profile is your natural inclination. So if there were no consequences, what would you do in that sense? So they get the
Yeah,
idea.
I
They
like
do
that.
the best
If there
they
were
can.
no consequences, what would you do? I like that.
Yeah. And if they feel that they're confused because they have been different for their parents, they tell me this. They say, Anita, when I was young, I used to please my parents. So I used to be the version that got the approval from my parents. When I came to school, I used to please my teacher. When I got the job, I used to please my boss. And then now I'm in your training. And when I got married, I used to please my husband. And now I'm in your training and you ask me, who are you? And they say, how do I
Exactly.
know? I lost myself along the way. So
Yeah,
that's
that's exactly the same thing, same kind of thing I say is that, we, most of us, by the time we're adults, we've tried to please this and we've tried to do this and we've tried to do this. And that's why sometimes I'll say that people who are around you looking in on you, they often know you better than you know yourself, because you've had all of these people you've tried to please all of your life.
yes. So that's why it's different. So when they do it, I take it back. I tell them to put their name. I tell them to total up the score. And when it comes back, that's when I notice that probably about 40 to 50% would have done it in a way that reflects their personality based on one day that I've spent with them. Based on my diagnosis, yeah, when I would to guess based on their behavior, I would tell them, my guess about your personality is based on how you have been for day one. And some of you have been your natural self, because I see the ease in the way that you speak and all that, because I've been using the tool for 20 years. So I love people, so I really take the trouble to look at them closely. But some of them are putting up a front. If they are a choleric and they are not familiar with this tool, they kind of put up that barrier. and they sit down, they don't say anything, they're quiet, but I know that they are cholerics, right? So when I look at their score and I see choleric high and phlegmatic high, then of course I know that they have been, ticking it wrongly on the form. They have put themselves as who I would be if I'm not comfortable. At home, I'm like this. So it's mixed up. That's why you don't get a proper scoring, which is why many corporate people ask me, Anita, can I use this for recruitment? Can I use this for hiring? I tell them I wouldn't encourage you to do that, because when they tick it on that form, on the Wired That Way assessment tool, right, they may not even tick it properly. So it would not serve your purpose. So I don't give out the profile anywhere else, Marita. I only use it within my training because it's a controlled and safe environment, so people don't leave being more confused. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now you mentioned, and I'm interested, and let me just say for our viewers once again here, we're on May 27th, 2020, started at 7 p.m. Central Time. And I mentioned that because if you're watching this later, we're not going to answer your questions live. But we don't have a lot of questions coming in. I think that we've got a lot of comments coming in. So if you have a question, please just type it in, because we've got about 15 minutes left of our scheduled time. And the time has flown by really quickly, and we do not have to end promptly at that time. It's not like the system will turn off. But if you've got a question, just type it for me, real concise and clear, because I can, if you give me a nice, clear question, I can switch it, I think. I'm learning this, and I'm getting better. I think you all that have joined us before will acknowledge that we've done better. Anita and I spent quite a bit of time earlier today, about 10 hours ago, before she went to bed, before I went and did other things. But I think we've got this working really well. But if you have a question, if you'll type in for me a real clear, concise question that I can be able to click on and have it show on the screen, we will get that answered for you. But I interrupted you, Anita. I have two questions that I want to ask you. You mentioned about if they come out, say, phlegmatic choleric. You understand that they didn't do the profile right. I'd like you to address that. And then the second thing I want to ask you is, you brought up the term choleric and the term phlegmatic, for example. And, we teach people in the certified personality training that you can use those terms. You can use the colors. We had Vicki Musney on with us a couple weeks ago, and she uses the color terms. And I tend to use popular, sanguine, powerful, choleric, and so I tend to use the modern day adjective with the ancient term. So I'd like you to address those two issues. What do you do when people in a corporate setting come out to be what we would believe to be opposite and not the way they were originally made? What do you do with that? And then how do you use the terms?
Okay, so what I do is when the score comes out weird, I don't tell them that it's weird yet. I just keep it with me, and while they're doing some other activities, I'm looking through all of it and I put it into two piles. So the one pile is, in my opinion, they look like they have assessed themselves quite accurately, because I spent like 8 or 9 hours with them already. So I'll put it on one pile. The other pile is where it's 4 high scores or 4 equal scores, right? And or 2 conflicting high scores. So when I do that, what I will do is, after my teaching segment, after I've taught it, I'll tell them everybody in this class is going to share over the mic what they think they are. That means I tell them to make the best guess about themselves. And it's really funny, because when they are in the same department and they are together in the session with me, when one person stands up and says, I think I am a sanguine phlegmatic, you see the other heads either going like this or like that. So it's so funny. We end up laughing. So it's a very cheerful session. And the whole setting has been set that we are learning together. No one is judging anybody. There's no perfect person here. So it's all set in the beginning of the session. So I asked them questions in front of everybody. I asked them questions like, do you lose your temper often? Do you get angry often? And they said, yeah. I lose my temper very easily, and I'm very firm about what I want. But then the score came out that they are phlegmatic, and so that's really
let me just interrupt here. So when you have them up in front of the room, and they are talking about what they believe their personality to be, and you believe that they are not what they're saying they are, then
Yes.
you ask them some leading questions. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. I'll ask them questions to discover for themselves, are they really a choleric or are they a phlegmatic? Which one is the real thing and which one is the learned behavior? That means the
Right.
nurture. So then they discover and say, ah, now I get what you mean. They tell me, oh, I see. So this is what I have learned to be because of my upbringing, and my parents told me you have to learn to be patient. You have to learn to zip your mouth. Don't just speak your mind. So then they said, so that is my developed side, my nurtured side. But naturally, I'm very quick to say what I want, say what I feel. So then they catch it. So by one guy catching it, the other guy.
And when you do that, do the audience members who work with them and know them, do the audience members go, yeah, yeah, yeah?
Yes, they do. So it affirms to them. And then I'll say, go back and discuss it with your wife. But I always say this to them. I'll tell them, I'm just asking questions to help you discover that side of you. Yeah, I'm not telling you what you are. I'm asking questions and saying, are you sure you're this? Is this how you behave? So what do you do when someone annoys you? So I'll ask them open-ended questions and tell them to explain a little bit. So by their explanation, it's pointing towards choleric. All their answers are pointing towards choleric and everybody sees it, right? So the funny thing is, someone who says, I'm not a choleric, Anita, I'm not a choleric. And you can even hear by their tone of voice and their facial expression that they are a choleric. So we laugh. And then finally, they would learn to accept that, yeah, actually, yeah, I get what you mean now. And then they'll share with me what actually happened in their past. And this is a corporate setting. They'll tell me what happened in their past that made them become the way they are or change the way they think about what's the right way to be and the wrong way to be. All these, they'll tell me this is what I grew up with. That's why I tell them, you can have a positive, a great choleric, you can have a negative, a terrible choleric. You can have a positive, a great sanguine, or you can have
like I talked about earlier about living in your strengths versus living in your weakness.
Exactly.
And let me comment, Pam Stevens here, who's been part of our class seminars for years and years and now lives in Arkansas, she's commented on this and she says, what she's talking about is masking, being who we've been modified to act, the expectations of others. She says it sounds like it's universal. I love hearing about masking because we all do it. So it ties in really well.
Yes, I talk about masking too. If I have time during my corporate setting, I would tell them, okay, let's just spend 5 minutes, quick one, because it arises, the topic arises. I'm like this differently at home and I'm here in office, I'm different. I say, yeah, why? Then I'll take them back down memory lane and then give them some stories to connect the dots. And I'll tell them even a child who is a very giggly, happy child, but the parents are very strict and very serious. And if the child is laughing over dinner, laughing over breakfast, and the parents yell at the child and say, stop laughing. What are you? Are you trying to join the circus? Or are you trying to be a clown? Or what is it? Can you be serious for a while? If they get that treatment, a sanguine child may realize that laughing at home is not allowed. And they're not accepted and loved for being who they are, right? So they would learn to be that serious self, just control themselves and change who they are, right? But at school, they are the clown in school. So the friends see them very differently than what the parents see them. So they are putting on a mask for the parents' approval. So I talk about that a little bit and then they begin to understand. But we can't go in depth. I always tell them to reach out to me when they want to go in depth about it. Then we talk during tea break or during lunch break.
And then do you do some private coaching on the side? Additionally?
No, I don't. The coaching is
many of our personality trainers do. Many of our personality trainers do some private coaching on the side as well. So talk for a moment, and then I've got some questions. I think we're going to go past based on the clock, we have 4 minutes left, but I think the system allows us to keep going. But go ahead and address using the different terminology and why you choose to do what you do. And then meanwhile, I'm going to look at some of the questions and put one or two up on the screen.
Sure. I use the same one as you do. I do popular sanguine because I use the word popular to tell stories. I say you can be popular in a good way, you can be popular in a bad way. People remember you for messing up the meeting or laughing inappropriately, So I use popular sanguine, powerful choleric, and the graphic I use are also color-based. So it's all in one. So some who remember colors better, they will say, oh, the yellow one, the red one, what was it again? That powerful, what was it again? Right? So sometimes they remember the color and the powerful. So it's okay, because everyone's different. So I use those terms for all four, and whoever wants to remember it by green, blue, they can go ahead. Those want to say, because sometimes they can't pronounce it properly. So whichever is most comfortable with them, they are free to use it. But when I speak about it, I say sanguine, choleric, melancholy, phlegmatic. So I do that as well.
Alison Mooney, who's joining us from New Zealand. So we have a really international group here tonight. And I wonder if Edie is here from Canada. She does a lot with personalities in Canada as well. But Alison from New Zealand says, I work in the corporate setting, and it wasn't long before I had to let go of Hippocrates' words. Corporate in New Zealand didn't digest them. She says, I use playful, powerful, precise, and peaceful, because they get that immediately. And, again, I just want to emphasize, it doesn't matter. In the new website, one of the things that's going to be there really clearly is, this is not about labels.
Right.
This is about relationships. So whatever you want to use there, that whatever terminology you want to use, that's fine. So Daphne in Daphne in Arkansas asks, have you tried Wired That Way, or have you tied Wired That Way to John Maxwell's Everyone Communicates, Few Connect? Good question, Daphne. Thank you for asking.
Yes, because when I talk about connection, I use some modules from his teaching on that. And then I talk about how understanding personalities will help us to connect differently with different people. So yes, I do tie them together. In fact, all my training sessions are paired up with elements from different teachings to give a more wholesome lesson. And so people feel like this is so relevant to me, and it's so real, and this is what I need. This is what's been missing for a long time in my workplace. So they form good relationships because I tie in all these from different lessons. So yes, the answer is yes, I have done that before. Marita, you have another question? Yes, I remember some of John's stories as well, about how he learned from Florence about the personalities. And I was so amazed because Florence I admire her a lot, and I admire John as well. He's my mentor. So it's really a privilege to be able to use both of what they have taught us, so it's changed my life. It has changed my life.
Okay, so Anita, how do you have people interact around the personalities with each other during your training? Do you have group exercises you do? You mentioned having someone come up and talk about what they see their personality is. What else do you do to have them interact around the personalities?
Case studies. So in groups of like 5 or 6 people, I give them a case study on personalities. I tell them to read the story, and I ask questions. What personality is the boss in this story? What personality is the executive in the story? So why did the boss respond the way he did? What are his emotional needs? What was the executive's emotional needs? So they begin to discuss with each other. Even in the discussion, you will see the cholerics, right? The cholerics giving their view in a very strong way, but their view is wrong, right? But the phlegmatic in the group has the right answer, but does not speak up. So what happens when they finally come up with a group answer? They've got one mistake. And when I ask them how come, and the phlegmatic just keeps quiet, and the choleric just puts his hand like that and says, yeah, I thought it was like that, because he spoke with so much confidence that a phlegmatic who actually had the right answer didn't want to speak up and defend his answer. So I use that as an example of how even in group activities, people who should have spoken up didn't, and throughout the program. So the success story would be people who are introverts, the melancholies, the phlegmatics. their action plan. Now, all my trainings have a specific action plan list that they have to commit to. They decide what is it they want to change in. So they will apply what they have put down on their action plan sheet, right? And then they will say, when I have a follow-up session about 4 weeks later, I see them back again, and they tell me, Anita, in meetings, I speak up before the boss calls me. I say, boss, I have an idea. And they speak up. So that is like a transformation, because they don't normally do that, because the loud ones and the vocal ones are the ones giving their ideas and being so confident about what they think. So that's why I show them how it works, even in training, in their activities, in their little performances they need to do in training, how they respond, and they say, yeah. And I ask for volunteers. You know who are the ones who will volunteer and who will be the observers, just watching those who volunteer. So I show them in real time the 4 personalities, how they interact. And so they catch it quite fast, actually, I must say. Within a 2-day program, they have quite a deep understanding about it.
And that's one of the great things about this program, is that you can't easily grasp it quickly. So for some of our personality trainers, and we're now a little bit over time, just a tiny bit, but we could go a little longer, because this has been a really power-packed session, and someone commented that they want to take a lot of notes on this. And let me just remind you all that you can rewatch this over and over. It's on the Facebook page, and there are many other trainings there as well. I think technologically, this is probably our best session. We're learning how to use, I mean, really, this technology is amazing. I'm sitting in Lubbock, Texas, and Anita is sitting in Malaysia in totally opposite time zones. When I'm done, I'm going to be ready for bed. Anita's going to be ready to start her day. And the technology that allows us to do this is really pretty amazing. But I think we maybe have got it figured out better than ever before. So I'd love your feedback on that from the rest of you. But someone says they want to take a lot of notes from this, so it's been really valuable. So for some of our certified personality trainers who have yet to approach organizations on using the personalities, what tips do you have for those folks to kind of sell this, to pitch this as a program?
Yeah. Firstly, you need to meet with them. You need to meet with the corporate people. And if you have someone who can refer you to someone and you're already in the meeting, always ask them, what is it that you're going through now? And what do you want to see change? Right? For me personally, I can't just go with a ready-made item and say, here, this is really good because I believe in it. You need to do it for your organization. I don't do that because it doesn't work, and we're not really listening to what the client needs. So we go in with no agenda in our minds. No agenda. We go in finding out, like you're going to find out, what can I do to help these people? But your intent should be, I want to listen first. I want to listen without anything running in my mind to say, oh, I have this product, I have that product. No, I go in, I want to listen. As you listen, and according to the tools that you have, you will be able to see how personality complements whatever else that you have that could help them, serve them, and achieve the results they are looking for. So be the person that listens. Be the person that says, oh, well, you seem to share a lot of struggles that you're facing with the people in the department. They don't seem to work well between departments. Do you know why? Ask them, do you know why? Try to dig as much as you can. And the strange thing is, the deeper I dig, the more I realize that sometimes even the corporate people don't have the answers. They don't have the answers because maybe nobody asked them those questions before. And they said, I don't know. And they look at each other. Do you know? Do you know? They can't give me the answer. And they tell me, why don't you tell us what to do? Why don't you give me what you have?
And don't you love that? Don't you love that when that happens?
Yeah.
So let me mention, Pam Stevens says about, we need to have an elevator pitch in a sentence or two. What will you do for them? And Alison Mooney from Australia agrees. Pam's in Arkansas. And we've got Jim Harrell with us, who's also in Lubbock, Texas. And he became familiar. He's a veterinarian, and he became familiar with this material through all the training my mother did within the Amway organization. And several of the people here have requested that they'd like to talk about how to use this in healthcare. I'm working on putting together a training session on using the personalities in the education system, in the school system. And I think we maybe need to have a whole session on masking, because that's always a good conversation for those of us who are working in this. It's a concept that's sometimes hard for people to accomplish. So,
Yes.
or hard for people to understand. I'm sorry, I said that incorrectly, but hard for people to understand. So, let me read one more thing here. Someone says, and again, for those of you, this is a new thing I learned. I put a link on the Facebook page there that if you would go in and give Facebook permission to use your name in these, then I know who you are. If you don't do that, then you come across on the screen to me as Facebook user. So Facebook user says, number one, meet with them. Number two, show what you are going through now in your team. 3, listen first. 4, as you listen with the tools you have, look at how the tools you have will help them. 5, note sometimes the corporate people don't have the answers. And 6, Pamela loved that elevator pitch. So that's a great summary for us of what we've been talking about. So, and someone else says, yes, a session on masking. And Jim Harrell here in Lubbock says he wants a session on masking as well. And so, okay, somebody else, let me show this one. This is a good one. This is Judy, and she wants to know, and I'm not sure where Judy's from. It doesn't show me that. But Judy wants to know where you came up with your case studies.
Any story on a work situation, a personal situation. There was this story I read from a book, about a father and his son, where the father used to be so harsh with the son, reprimanding the son. The son was only like about 8 years old, maybe 5 to 8 years old. So it's called the father and son story. And so I talk about how do you know the father's personality through the story. So any story, and I even use movie clips to help people guess personalities. Patch Adams is such an old movie. So I use one of the clips from Patch Adams' movie, if you're familiar with that. So you can take movie clips, you can take any story, short stories from any book, any leadership book, any personal development book. Just pick out some stories and you can find it anywhere. So feel free to just pick stories. You can even use real life examples and type it out. Real stories and type it out. That means your own story, but change names. And then you can use that.
Yeah, I've got a great story from my mother's cardiologist that I used recently. And I'm not sure where he's actually from, but it's going to be Iran, Iraq, somewhere Middle East, okay? Dr. Ansari. And he is so sanguine. It is so funny that when we see him, I ask him, how's your mother-in-law? And he goes on and tells these stories about his mother-in-law. The guy is a crack up. And his mother, I don't need to go into it here, but it's very, very funny. It's a great story, especially because he's a cardiologist, but he's a sanguine. And my mother loves him. She loves to go to see him because he's always in a hurry. He's sanguine choleric, of course, or choleric sanguine because he's always, but he's just very, very funny. So we use those stories a lot. So we're over time now, and we've got someone here that just says hi. So they probably just checked in. So let me remind you all, you can go back and listen to this over and over. This is a free training session. We're going to try to do some more. I'm getting better on the technology of how we do this. And let me know what topics you're interested in. And Anita, if people ask questions that are watching this not live, you're going to kind of track this for a couple of weeks, I assume.
Yes, I will.
And you'll try to answer people's questions, because this has been a really valuable session. Of course, everyone we've done has been valuable in different ways. But I think technologically, this is probably going to be our best session. So as we're having some folks saying thank you so much. And I think we've covered everything that we need to cover tonight, correct?
Yes, that's awesome. For those of you who want a more in-depth, sharing, you want to connect with me, you can do that. You can just follow me on Facebook. And we can be in touch. You can add me on Facebook as well. I have a page. So it's facebook.com/Anita.Lawrence.JMT for John Maxwell Team.
John Maxwell Team, GMT. Okay. And do you have a website as well?
Yes, I do. It's being revamped at the moment. It should be up in about a
I
month
can
or
relate. Believe me, I can relate to a
yeah,
revamped
exactly.
website.
Yeah. But when you get me on
Oh,
my page, all my details are there, and yeah, everything is
yeah,
there.
Facebook is just so easy
Yes, it
to do.
is.
For my house remodeling business, I don't have a website. I just have Facebook
Yeah.
presence. It's
Yeah,
just so easy to update and deal with. So we
exactly.
appreciate that, Anita. And let me remind all of you who are listening that we are watching or listening, whatever you're doing, within about a week, hopefully by really close to June 1st, we are going to have our new website up at thepersonalities.com. Currently, you can still get to our resources through classservices.com, but the new website will be thepersonalities.com, where you can order the paper copy of the Wired That Way profile, of course, the book. And I want to mention for all of you that my book, Wired That Way, and my mother's book, Personality Plus, are available free for Kindle Unlimited members. So for anyone who is a Kindle Unlimited member, you can download the book free and read that on your Kindle. So Allison wants me to repeat the Facebook page. So Allison, that Facebook page, well, the Facebook page, I'm not sure which one you wanted me to repeat. Facebook page. There we are. It's the Certified Personality Trainers. And so if anyone goes on Facebook, because again, for all of you, please realize, including Anita, you can take the link to this session and post it anywhere on the internet you want, and folks can come back and watch this. But each one of these trainings are available through the Certified Trainer Facebook page. So if you just go into Facebook and do a search for Certified Personality Trainer. Now, it's a page that I've made open to the public, and I've made it open because we're not doing any trainings currently to certify people. I've made this open to anyone who just loves the personalities. But in order to be able to interact here and ask questions on these trainings, you have to be a member, and I have to approve you. So you have to be a member of the Certified Personality Trainer Facebook page. So Anita, why don't you give some closing comments? I'm going to look at the comments people are offering and see if there's anything else we need to address.
All right. My Facebook page, I think someone's asking that. It's facebook.com/Anita, ANITA, Lawrence, LAWRENCE, .JMT for John Maxwell Team. I repeat again, facebook.com/Anita.Lawrence.JMT. I want to thank all of you for your time that you've spent here, and do reach out to me if you want more ideas and you want to find out more about how I've been using this in the corporate setting. I would love to help you along the way.
Great. And this has been a great discussion. So when Anita and I are both off the air, Anita can go back in the comments on Facebook and give
Yes.
you directly a link to her Facebook
Yes.
page, because some of you are asking for that. And Pam Stevens, thank you for telling me that we're getting better at this. I'm using my husband's computer tonight. So Anita and I tried my laptop and I tried my desktop, and we had a lot of lag time. And my husband's laptop seemed to be the
Yeah.
ticket for tonight, so he let me have this. So thank you all again. I think we've got everything covered. I appreciate it. Well, I'll try to line up a session on masking. So if any of you who are listening, watching, feel like that's something you really want to address, let me know. I'm working on teaching in the school environment, personalities in the education system. So that'll probably be our next one. But again, the healthcare, there have been some questions tonight about healthcare. So I would love to do one or two of these a month. And the beautiful thing is they stay on the Facebook page forever. And you can go back and review them and get that education over and over. So thanks so much, Anita. We've been on for an hour. It's been a fast hour. Thank you
Yeah.
so much to all of you for joining in.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Marita.
Have a good day, Anita, and good night to all of you in the United States.
Okay,
Thanks
bye-bye.
so much. Bye-bye. If I can remember how to turn this off, it'll be good. Bye-bye. There we go. Stop.